then Jagdish, Kamlesh Das, Raghunath, Subhash Chandra ये जो आपण कहले सेशन 3 ना किंतु एथिरे तो केना नहीं कोटा मते कहले एदी अच्छा अंशमा आ आपण ना संदीप ने जिला पंचायत मंत्री ये असली Okay, so welcome everyone to this session. It is mixed. One is issues of Adivasi identity, assimilation and development. Second is the role of agencies in Adivasi cultural preservation and development, plus indigenous voices and development conflicts, the role of media and agencies in shaping Adivasi identity. We will start with Panchanan Mahathi. Professor, retired professor from University of Hyderabad.
But as there are quite a few non-Udiyas who do not understand English, I'm sorry, there is a silver point argue. If you ask me why argue, I will say why argue. So that's the only thing and nothing else. So, it's a silver point form. And, the title of the conference is Reclaiming Roots, the Adivasi Questions and Role of Media, Movements, Policy and Politics in Development. I always considered myself an Adivasi, and an Adivasi is an Adibhashi. That's quite important. As I am a student of linguistics, I will confine myself to the language policies, and I'll show you how tribal language education is in a pitiable state right from day 1 till 2024. What we do normally is that all the Adivasis, we put them in one basket. Whatever research you have seen or known, in most cases you will see that Adivasi language, Adivasi Boli dialects. The people who talk like this do not know that there are Adivasi languages, not dialects. quite a number of people think that if a language doesn't have a script, it's a dialect. It's a wrong idea, completely wrong idea. I'm sure all of you know that there was a time when Sanskrit didn't have a script. It was never written. So that's why the Vedas are called Shruti. Till a few hundred years ago, the languages of the Northeast didn't have a script. That's why they have adopted, because of Christianity, they have adopted the Roman script, and everybody writes in the Roman script today. Same thing happens in Southeast Asia, where everybody writes in the script. The script is not equal. Script is like dress. I have studied Sanskrit in Odia script, written the metric exam in Odia script. And I know for sure the Bengalis and the Telugus do write Sanskrit in Bengali script and Telugu script respectively. So script is something else, that's not an issue. So what we do is that all the Adivasi languages must not be put in one task, one basket. If you take a Kui speaker from Odisha, ask him or her to meet a Santali speaker from Odisha, if they speak in their own languages, they will not understand even a couple of words. So there are three groups, families of four families, let me say, of tribal languages in this country. One of them speak like us, like Odias, Bengalis, Marathis, etc., etc. Since I'll be talking in the context of Odisha, Desia is that kind of language. It's a tribal language, spoken by the tribals for inter-group communication. So there are Indo-Aryan tribal languages. Then Dravidian tribal languages, Kui, Kubi. If you go to let's say Bihar, Jharkhand, you have Kuduk, you have Kisan, etc., etc. Go down south, you have Badaga, you have Doda, you have Kota, you have also Savara. No, I'm sorry, not Savara. Savara belongs to another group. So these are the Dravidian tribal languages. They belong to the Dravidian family. I'm not talking about race at all. I'm talking about languages. Then there are Munda languages such as Santali, Juan, Savara. These are Munda languages. Then you have Tibetan languages, Naga, Mizo, etc., etc. There are four major families. I have said that. Let me repeat. There are more Dravidian languages, not tribal languages. There are more Dravidian languages in Odisha than in Tamil Nadu, or Kerala, or Andhra Pradesh, or Karnataka, or Telangana. There are more Dravidian languages in Odisha than Tamil Nadu. Out of 26, Odisha has about 10 to 11 Dravidian languages, and interestingly, most of them are tribal languages. Second, Odisha has more Munda languages than Jharkhand, or Bihar, or Madhya Pradesh, or Bengal. So Odisha is a very different kind of state. It has a large number of Dravidian languages, large number of Munda languages, and Odia is there. So it's obvious that Odia has given a lot to those tribal languages and taken a lot from those tribal languages. And that's why, in one of my recent papers, not very recent, 5-6 year old papers, I claimed that Odisha is the hyphen between the north and south of India. Not Maharashtra, remember that. Not Maharashtra, Odisha, because Maharashtra writes in Devanagari script. Our script is round shaped because of Dravidian influence, not because of the palm leaf will break. I don't mind the stupid idea. The reason is, before writing on palm leaf, we used to write in stone. Would this stone break if you put a line, zero rekha? No. So it's because of, and for your information, in the initial stages, 10th, 11th centuries, a lot of scribes who wrote inscriptions where Telugu speakers. The script was Telugu, language was Odia. Lot of institutions are there in this, which shows that he had a very close give and take. Okay, now coming back to Birsa Munda. Birsa Munda is actually a blend of two cultures. He is a Munda, is obvious from the word Munda. And Birsa is a Dravidian word, which means to unite, to group together, a popular kind of Munda. If there is a Kuttack speaker here, you must know that there is something called Cuttack, something like that. Sa becomes Ha in Kuttack, which is the Dravidian language. Orans, they speak the Kuttack language. And Birsa was a Munda. There is Khadiya in Jharkhand, but most probably, I guess, it's my guesswork, that Birsa, he was popular among the tribes, and other people called him Birsa because he united all the people together to save his tribe, his groups from conversion into Christianity. Okay? Alright. Now, coming back I would primarily talk about, now get back to Jagannath. Jagannath is not his name originally. Jagannath is not his name originally. Because if he is a Savara god, Savaras 2000 years ago, 1500 years ago, 1000 years ago couldn't have used Jagannath. His name was Jaganta. Jaganta means somebody who is powerful, who is bright, something like that. It's a Savara god. And Jaganta could easily be converted into Jagannath, no problem, because that is what we call, conversion into our kind of community. I will give you another example. Sultan has become Suratrana. I have evidences. That's not so. That's what happened. Jaganta was converted into Jagannatha. All right. Now, what is Madala Panji? People say it's like Madala, huge, big drum kind of thing. It's again, no. Madala means the first, the primary Panji. First chronicle. Because in Odisha that should be the first chronicle. I'm sure you heard of Mudaliar and all those things. So the same thing kind of thing, Madala, that kind of thing. It's the first Panji. Now it's again, what I'm trying to say is that Jaganta, Jagannatha, we all of us know he is a Munda god, and his name was Jaganta. I'll write a paper on that. I want to write, in fact, a paper on Jagannatha's mother tongue. So thinking for 20-25 years, I have not got time now. I'll do that probably. Look at Madala Panji. Look at Anasana. Everybody in Odisha has derived it from Anavasana. Everybody. I'm sure you have heard that umpteen number of times. Look at the word Anavasana. It is the antonym of Avasana. Avasana means chutti, rest. So the antonym opposite word has to be what? When Jagannath is unwell, eating medicines, pathi, country medicines, when he is resting, can it be Anavasana? Never. So it is in fact a Savara word, Juanga word, Santali word, which means ansar, which means to dry, to wipe. After the ritual bath, Jagannath, the water, whatever you have poured on him, it has to be wiped and dried. So that is Anavasara. Anasara, I'm sorry, that is Anasara. It has nothing to do with Anavasara. Okay? Now it is again, look, I told you Savara, Juan, Santal, word, etc. Okay? Now, let's take Koilu Vaikuntha. Koilu Vaikuntha has nothing to do with cuckoo. Nothing to do with cuckoo. I'm sure you have heard of Nagarkoil. If there is a Dravidian speaker here, Tamil or Malayalam speaker must know Koil. Koil means temple. Nagarkoil, temple. So Koil and Vaikuntha is used for cremation ground and burial ground. You will go to any place. Allahabad, Hyderabad, I didn't have a photo here. Even you say Vaikuntham, so it is written everywhere. So where people go to the heavens, so that kind of. Koil Vaikuntha means burial ground. Temple burial ground. Koil is temple, temple burial ground, cremation ground, whatever it is. So they coexist. Okay? Then you take Abodha. A lot of people have started writing Abodha. They say that whatever is not served, Badiva in Odia means to serve food in that sense. It is Abodha. Nothing to do with that. Abodha means whatever is cooked, the way it is cooked, that kind of thing is Abodha. It's again a Dravidian word. Then Adharapana. You know, those clay pots haunting the lips of the gods. Have you said chini pana, this bello pana, kadali pana. So the content is more important when you talk about pana. Pana is a kind of drink which is offered to Jagannath when he goes back from the Gundicha temple after the Rath Yatra. So that is Adharapana. Can you think that it should be Adharapana? Does it not sound very odd in your ears? No, not at all. Adhara, again the content that is put in the pana. So that is Adharapana. I can give you umpteen number of examples. Charamala. What does it mean? Tadapo. What does it mean? Tahiya. What does it mean? We have never worked on all these things. There is some work done by a couple of people. I full respect and praise for those things, but we have to relook at the Jagannath cult, the words that are used in the temple, and why they are used, partnered with the sources of those words. That is quite important. That's all. And this kind of thing has never been done. Okay? Nityani. Those of you who have visited Puri, you can see that in Puri, inside Puri, the word for milk is Nityani. How to come out of that? Cross Chandrapur, it's Kira, Dudha, etc., etc. But in Puri town, it is Nityani. And you will be surprised to know that there are at least 6 words that I know to refer to milk in Odia. Khira, Dudha, Nityani, Gurasa, Okhara, Nalapani. Now these words I have heard in my ears. 6 words. 1 word for dahi, 1 word for ghee, 1 word for chana. Why 6 words for milk? There must be reason. It cannot be without reason. Now the reason is the mundas, such as Savara, the Savaras, the Juans, the Santals, the Hadiyas, and all these people hate milk. They hate milk. The same thing happens in the northeast also. The Tibet-Burmans, they hate milk. That's why those of you who have lived there or visited the northeast, you will say that mostly they serve tea without milk. The same thing happens among these tribes also, the Munda tribes. So they don't like milk. So since Jagannath was a Savara god, when Ramanuja came for after the temple was constructed by the Ganga kings, 2-3 kings, you could say whatever it is, I won't get into that. So when he came for coronation, puja, etc., obviously the Dravidians would like to introduce milk, etc., etc. You cannot use the word whatever it is, in Odia, you cannot use khira because it's a taboo. In fact, milk is a taboo for the Munda tribes. I have worked on, I'll tell you that, I have worked on the tribes of Narmada area, their displacement and all those things we have worked. The Paudas are Munda. And we could discover that, first of all, they gave us milk without tea without milk. Then I asked why we are doing that. No, milk is for other things, not that. Then we started looking at it. Culturally, they are Munda. Even though they speak a dialect or language, people say dialect of Marathi, something Indo-Aryan. Culturally, even today they are Munda. Anyway, we'll get back to that. Now see that, when this happened, I'm sure those Odias would know that at night we don't take the name of snake. We never say sapo. We use Lambajantu. We use Dodi. It's like, my own relative, somebody who was in MA in psychology, she passed her MA in 1953. Till her death, she used to say, there was a Lambajantu here. At night, she would say. So, if there is something which is taboo, you use a circumferential expression for that. So, since milk was not used earlier, offered to Jagannath, so one has to find a way out. So Nityani, I have published a paper on that long ago. It is in fact Nei Tanni. You know, Nei is sweet or honey or whatever you take it, and Tanni is water. You know that in Tamil. So Nei Tanni, obviously it will become Nityani, etc. Though the local saying is a Niti Ani Devuli Nityani. This is, if something is brought every day, it is. But in Odia, Na can never become Na. It's the reverse. Na becomes Na. Jana becomes Jana, Bana becomes Bana, etc. etc. Na will never become Na. So Niti Ani Devuli Nityani, this is entirely wrong. So Nityani is Naitani, and you can see how these things are happening. Okay. Now let's look at the festivals. Probably I should mention here that all the three names of Odisha, Utkala, Kalinga and Odisha, they are not from the Sanskritic roots. They are not from the Sanskritic roots. They are from non-Sanskritic sources. What I am to say is that we, the Odiyas, the Adivasis, who were Adivashis, we spoke something which was, I should say, a tribal language, or which were tribal languages. And there was always a give and take, so this is how Odia has come into existence. So let's look at the festivals. Raja Parva. Raja is very typical Odia kind of festival. It's not there in Bengal here or on the other side, Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or something. No. Raja, you understand why it is Raja Parva? Mother Earth. That is the menstruation period of Mother Earth. It's a Munda cultural festival. And for 3 days, I know my sisters never didn't walk on the land. They used to wear a chappal made of this palm tree, those things, and that's what we are doing. Look at Chhat. Chhat is sun worship. Singonga, if there is there a speaker Tamil, Santali or Juan speaker here? Singonga is sun god. Santali? Okay, I'm sorry. Singonga is sun god. So the same symbol, you go to Bihar, the same kind of thing, you will see that, that's not an issue. Now you will see how these things have impacted our language and culture. And we are part, I don't say we have been influenced, no, we have inherited that. No influence, we have inherited those things. Okay, now let's take our Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Let's see. You know that Brahma was Aryan. If you know the features of Aryan, white, fair skin color, this, that kind of thing. Look at Vishnu and Shiva, their dark complexion. Shiva, in fact, is a Dravidian god. Etymologically, it means somebody who has knots and all these things, so that kind of thing. I won't go into the details. Maybe this we can discuss sometime later. You know that Vishnu and Shiva both are not fair skin. They don't have fair skin. So this is quite important. And if you look at the Shiva's family, Parvati from Parvat. Kali, can you believe that Kali? No, why should I pronounce like the Hindi speakers? I can say Kali. Kali, can you imagine that she is an Aryan goddess? Can anybody think of that? Kali doesn't mean dark. Kali, I repeat, doesn't mean dark. Kali means powerful. And I have photos from the south where she is not dark, she is fair. We have met, because of Kali, we have met her dark complexion. She is not at all dark complexion. So Kali, look at Ganesh, can he be Aryan with this and big tummy like somebody? Can you think of that? And Kartika is never worshipped in the north. He was worshipped. I have photos here from Mathura and other places. If Dr. Behra is interested, I can show those photos how Mathura was a Shaiva Peeth before the advent of Vaishnavism there. Now see that. Now look at forget it. And Shiva goes to the cremation ground and all those things he does. So it is not at all Aryan. And look at Vishnu. Vishnu is dark complexion. And yesterday I was saying, Rama, why is he dark complexion when Lakshmana and Bharata are fair complexion? Her mother was Kaushalya from Koshala, Chhattisgarh. So obviously it has to be dark complexion. And Bharata was from Kaikeyi's son. So Kaikeyi is a Pakistani in today's parlance. So not Indian. So that kind of, you can see how it has impacted. Now, let's come back to Ravana. Ravana is a Pandit, but a Rakshas. Can a Rakshas be a Pandit? That means he was a non-Aryan who was a Pandit. Hanuman is a Pandit. Can a monkey be a Pandit? He was again a tribal who was a Pandit. I'll interpret that way. There are reasons why I'll do that. Now, there I will do 2 more instances. Dasya Ratnakara becomes Valmiki and writes Ramayana. Is it magic? A dacoit becomes all of a sudden a saint and becomes a Pandit and writes Ramayana. So Dasya Ratnakara, can he be? My guesswork is that he was also a tribal. Yes, one more. I will look at my. I will take 1 more minute. Please give me 1 more minute. Then you have Krishna, Dvaipara, and Vyasa. Krishna, Dvaipara, so Krishna, Aryan cannot be, dark complexion. And you know why Dhritarashtra was blind. If you don't know that, I won't narrate it here. Because of he was copulating with, for which, and she didn't like it, for which she closed her eyes. That's why Dhritarashtra is blind. So these are the things which we have to take. I'll just take a minute to show something that I will refer to the recent book on tribal languages, 3 tribal languages. Madi Padam, Sarva Sikhya Abhijanam, Bodha, full of mistakes. Second one is, I'll show you, because the books are here, so after the talk we can discuss those who are interested. Saura Bhasa Bolnobodo by KISS, Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, full of mistakes. Grammar, fact, data, everything. And these books, they must be taken to task for publishing such books. Third, recent one, published by NCERT 2024. Full of mistakes. Data, spelling, everything. And this is the condition of tribal language teaching in this country. You don't imagine what kind of mistakes are there. In these people, those who have written, the director, whosoever is involved, they must be taken to task. And they must pay for the money they have wasted on publishing all the 3. Of course, I don't know if this Sarva Sikhya Abhijan has any meaning, but these things must be done. Otherwise, there is no future for tribal languages. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Given the shortage of time, I would like to have one question. One question.
You can have questions after this evening.
People remember when the speaker speaks. So I would like anybody has any question? All right. So now we go to the. Thank you. Yeah, please.
So this was a question I read somewhere.
Can somebody give a
Oriya script.
microphone?
Oriya script is derived from Adi Kannada. The Ram thing has gone from the Kannada script.
Is there a Bengali speaker here? Pagale Tina Bole, Chagale Tina Har. A madman can say anything, just like a goat can eat anything. So it's like nothing, there's no evidence. No.
No connection.
No.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Panchan. You speak. So, Ashwini Mahapatra from Jain.
Thank you. After hearing Professor Panchan on this excellent presentation, enlightening all of us about these etymology of language, he happens to be a great well-known expert and linguistic, and the origin of different languages, including Korea and the tribal languages, really very good learning about from him. And that's learning process also from time to time is subjected me to revisit my theoretical understanding and perspective that often I've been trying hard to develop last couple of years. I take the opportunity first of all to thank the organizer, particularly Vikram, for organizing such congregation of scholars and analysts of different issues across the country and bring them here to Raja University and to have both formal and informal engagement among ourselves as to how to develop the narrative as regards the Janjati, Adivasi, the tribal or uncouth, the way we have been describing them in our society. And that's definitely a very humble, small step on his part. But it definitely is not as innovative, but a remarkable step towards creating a more integrated, inclusive society, not only in India, also shorter the country Bharat is concerned. So let me begin with a small mistake in the subtitle here. They call it assimilation. Assimilation terminology has negative connotation. So I submit my request to the organizer that we be trying to replace the word assimilation by integration. Assimilation is a basic process which speaks to superimposition of the dominant hegemonic culture over these smaller so-called little tradition at the periphery or the margin of society. So integration does assure the specificity and peculiarity associated with the different culture to carry along and not to lose it out, its peculiarity or the specificity. So because that's mutual character not only at the language linguistic level, but the way the expression level, also that has to be implemented as well at the policy level. Rather than calling it assimilation, let's call it integration. And integration happens to be a relatively more acceptable modern state building, nation building process than assimilation process. Wherever the assimilation has been implemented, we have found this society have gone through it's called the phenomenon of recurrent interest in violence. Because the assimilation policy as such, first of all, it begins with the denial of agency and the capacity of other sections to assert itself etymologically. So it begins with a negative assumption about policy. And second, it implies superimposition of the ruling culture over the rest. It may not be majoritarian dominant, but it could be the dominant ideology of the ruling elite. Third aspect that I would like to say that the way things have happened, for these Janadati concerned, Adivasi concerned, this thing I find it just proud to. So it's at Raju that I come to where Professor Panchan Mahanti left just before I began. See, at the modern state process begins. It begins in the way of incorporating the pre-existing organic social formation, particularly social organizations. So a state doesn't simply appear with independence. The state-making process extremely tedious, painful, and chaotic process. It tries to basically incorporate whatever had existed before the so-called modern state emerged. So what existed? Different social organization, what we call the organic social formation, including different caste, tribal formation, all. So either you try to basically thrust on your identity on them, or you allow them to coexist and create a more inclusive, cohesive identity. So the integration process thereby, it brings them along, but without risking the loss of their own identity. The second way, the way it has happened here is, if it's a pluralistic democratic state, then you try to involve them through political participation along with the participate in election and you will contest election. And second is how you have the so-called positive distribution policy so as to bring them to support unquote mainstream. But that's one way of again integrating them. And the third is the typical Marxist perspective is when the expansion of capital, so obviously you create a national market. And national market is basically composed of the buyers and sellers and the so-called entrepreneurs and the working class. So in a way you create a class division. So you don't create any kind of division along the primordial lines. So expansion market itself makes you integrate automatically because all of you become part of the market. But how this has not happened, not been so far stressed by the social scientists, is the cultural dimension of it. The cultural dimension is basically refers to respecting each community's group, its faction on unique cultural identity. So when you create a modern state like Bharat, so this has to be based on respecting each smaller group identity because that's the history of that particular community. And most cases of Bharat is concerned, you will find the identity formation is not simply drawn on the cultural authenticity and historicity, even sometimes they closely emotionally adjust with the land they come from. So landscape also plays a vital role in the individual imagination. What that individual is, the way that individual tends to identify himself or herself. So that basically plays a vital role in creating that identity from the mountainside. We will extremely adjust to those landscapes, and that remains in your imagination and continues to plays vital role in terms of seeing the world around you. They continue to be the best lot. So you being the best lot has to be respected in the process of the inclusiveness. So my culture basically refers to a broader aspect of it. That basically means how do you ensure that the great traditions are not superimposed on the little tradition and little tradition begin to lose out its significance or relevance. That's extremely important. So in a broader context, very briefly, so whatever Professor Panchal Mahanti said, so what could be solution? So for me, the predicament here is very obvious. So how do you say this? If you go through this entire modernization process, you bring this tribal community into it. So this involves the risk of the tribal community losing out their authenticity. Because we have seen this small tribal elite no longer identified itself with the community. It prefers to identify more with the so-called urbanites or the modernites. So they are no longer identified with the people, with the area they come from. So you have the risk of losing the identity, both cultural authenticity and the single identity that community normally prefers to hold on to. Second aspect here is, if you leave them there, do not provide the modern facilities, including modern education, access to the modern education institution, all that thing. So they will remain where they were. The pre-modern existence they will continue to have. The solution here is, we need to have constructive and constant ongoing dialogue, engagement with them, not dialogue, engagement with them. And the engagement will be constructive and two-way process. It should be one-way process. And the one-way process exercise has to reflect in the way we build up the narrative. And building up the narrative, weaving the narrative, I think Panchal Mahanti's presentation is extremely important. But that's basically based on give and take. It's not a one-way traffic. And you say, you are great, we are great. So greatness is shared. Greatness doesn't belong to one particular community. So this inclusiveness has to be based on a sense of sharedness, based on respect of each other's peculiarity, rather than kind of superimposed. Thank you very much for listening.
We finished beyond time, much before. So we have enough time for question answer. You can, if you like, you can ask both of them. Yes. Any question?
So can I think aloud?
Yes.
So after hearing...
Can you give also an introduction before you?
My name is Gauri Chakraborty and I'm from Times School of Media, Bennett University.
Yeah.
We just had a IAMCR conference in New Zealand in Christchurch, and what I took back from there was how throughout the conference the Maoris dominated, the small tradition dominated the great tradition. So I just want to pose this question to both the professors, that is there also like a solution thinking? Because there it seemed it was working. The greetings, the geographical space, the way they were communicating, everything was endorsing that there's an identity which is far larger than the anglicized identity that we had reached out to. So I'm just asking, I'm thinking aloud.
Well, it's true. Over the years, it's a great tradition. That's been the subject of criticism by the dominant mainstream social channels. Some of them do favor us, some of them can be extremely critical about it. Those who really talk about this marginalized lot, those people from the periphery, often resort to this kind of analysis because it's a reaction to the imposition of the tradition or the little tradition, so-called little culture. How can it just become absolutely redundant or it has been losing its relevance? So my take on this issue is very clear. I don't believe this kind of binaries. These binaries are basically West-centric. Little tradition, great culture, little culture. We have to go beyond it. How to transcend these boundaries, binaries, by inventing something which is culturally, historically rooted in your own experience. Because we never divided the people like this. Historically, a lot of things are coming up today, which substitute what I'm saying today. The binaries basically need to bind, very important in epistemology. And they are methods and paradigms, they're trying to apply more ways. And sometimes we try to apply by force, it will go fit. So that's the best way the problem lies. Hence my take on issue is basically an investment and going beyond these binaries, the conventional binaries, and respect them as they are. Whether they respect me or not, begin with respecting them, rather than believing in them, rather than mine is the best, you best. No, yours is completely good as mine is. Am I meant to?
Thank you. The question is, I fully endorse why binaries. The so-called little traditions have contributed immensely to the so-called great traditions. Since you speak Bangla, what is the word for 20? Is it from the great tradition? It's Vinsha. Uri is from Unda. And we speak Korean. My mother till her death, if you ask her 75, she won't say 75, she will say 3 Kodi 15. 3 into 20, 60 plus 15. We have a different parallel system. And those who are familiar with whose systems are more intelligent than a person who is exposed to only a single system technically. We have lost that. So making a distinction like great traditions and small little tradition, etc. This is, as he says, this is a bad way of defining or calling things or discussing things. That should be number one. Number two, if suppose we accept that little tradition, we must accept that little traditions within books have contributed to great traditions. I'll give you a couple of examples. Apan ka naam kaun? Is there a verb in it? In Hindi, you will have to say aapka naam kya hai. Without hai, you are on your sentences ungrammatical and etc. Bangla, you will have to say apna naam ki. Can you say ache? No. The same thing I can say apan ka naam kaun ache, apan ka naam kaun otte. Not acceptable. No, why from these structures come to Odia and Bangla? There must be a source. It's not Sanskritic, it's not Hindi, it's not Punjabi. There are many ways to look at such things. Okay, I'll give you one more example. In Hindi, you can always, even animals have a masculine and feminine, kind of name. Hathi, Hathni. Ghoda, Ghodi, etc. etc. In Odia Bangla, you will have to say Ondira Hati, Mai Hati. You will have to say. You will have to use an adjective indicating male and female, except to Nagoni and Baghoni. It's because Bagho is my mamu. I'm sure Bagho is your mamu also. Bagho mamu, Bagh mama is your mamu also. You know, Bagh mama and Naga Devata. Since Cobra is a god, so obviously they are elevated to the human status. And since tiger is mamu, again elevated to the human status. That's why you have Naga, Nagini. You never say Godhuni, Hatuni, Godhuni, etc. You never say such things. You will say those things only when you scold your sister or daughter kind of thing to Godhuni. So that is only reference to human being, not to the female kind of this animal. So if you look at all these things, you will see that we have a different kind of culture, different kind of language. I think it's time we decided to pay our debt to these languages. So we must be more careful, see that they survive. And I make another explosive statement. India is not a multilingual country. If anybody wants, I'll give you data to show India is a country where many languages are spoken. So very recently I delivered a talk in London. They published this. India is not a multilingual. So India is multilingual, not Indians. India speaks many languages. India as a country speaks many languages, not Indians. Most Indians are monolingual. I am giving you data from 2011 census reports. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, your question, Professor Arti Kashyap.
I am from IIT. My question is from the second speaker. I want to know
He is Professor Mahapatra. Why second speaker?
because I forgot the name, I'm sorry. So I couldn't catch the name. So my question is about that, how do you define identity? So identity is relating to your traditions of that value, traditions of things you follow, or is it like your way of living or the values you carry? So how do you define identity?
So the question. See, identity, you normally give identity when someone asks you to do so. You identify when somebody asks you to do so. On the circumstances where you are constrained to say, I'm so and so. Like I am a female or male. So all you see is something called definition by in contrast. It is the what structure is called identity making based on system difference. You identify not yourself by putting something else. That person is male, hence I'm female. That person Nigerian, I'm Indian. Your identity defined in terms of what you are not in relation to the other person. So identity construction takes place only most of the time in a negative sense, in a binary way. Otherwise, you never go and identify yourself unless you are asked to. Second, identity construction is something individual, generally happens in this way. That identity construction takes place when that depending on the interaction that we have. If it is a gender, then obviously interaction with the male, so you define I'm a female. If it is a different ethnic group, you say I'm so and so. Then if it is a different nationality, you say I'm so and so. So depending on the nature of interaction, level of interaction, you define yourself. So identity is more a self-definition, and sometimes it is socially constructed because you are not getting the identity wherever you go. Inside India, you are the Odia. Outside India, you are an Indian. So identity is not fixed. Thank you.
Okay, so we go to the next speaker. Yes.
So, thank you for your talk. This is to concern us. So, we know that we are the language developed out of Ireland, Austrian languages and Italian languages. And as Purnachandra Vasakasa has wrote 10,000 Desert Awards. So, where should we start this? There is a wonderful book by Baby Mohan now, and he says that all our Indians speak with many nouns. And because that the substratum of our Korean language, there are many ostrich words. You give the example of Korean, Kodo, and there are many. There are 10,000. Where should we start? Do we start with Munda language or Saurabh language? We start with the substratum of Korean language.
I fully agree with you. The thing is, we have to relook our categorizations. Desaji is an awfully bad categorization. There is nothing called Desaji.
Yes.
Whatever if you cannot find a source of the word, put it on the carpet called Desaji.
That's what I asked.
Desaji, one has to try to find it must be Dravidian, it must be Munda, it must be Tibetan, some root is there. That is the whole thing, but we have not done that. So since we are not, there are lots of words. Take for example Chhati, take for example Godo, take for example Munda, take for example Gadi, take for example, umpteen number of words which come from different sources. And these are quite important. So unless we do that, things will not. Thank you very much.
So let's go to the next speaker, Sandeep Haridas.
Thank you, Chair, respected panel, and my friends and teachers in front of me. And at the outset, I would like to share my gratitude to my friend, organizer Vikram. And actually, I intend to speak on the issue that my title goes like this. Banamasis in the modernist discourse, understanding Odisha experience. And here is a very odd one out in a sense. I'm very new to this, but still I've given an opportunity, so I was trying with my ignorance on the topic that I'm going to speak. And in this quest for solving my ignorance, I have raised three fundamental questions. How do I conceive that term called Banavasis? Then what is the canvas of modernist discourse in ways that Banavasis have been derooted because the title he is claiming the derooting. That means root is away, and that what is this process of derooting, and that canvas is the modernist. And then third, what is it that Odisha experienced that speak of that quest for derooting and problematizing how it has been derooted these Banavasis. So first, let me try to conceptualize what do I conceive, what do I see as Banavasis, the term which are very emotionally attached. So first, one idea of Banavasi is a specific subspace of wider integral space, and the two other subspace are Banavasis means Aranyaks, and then other is Nagarvasi, that is open space for trade or exchanges of needs, and then is Gramavasis. Gramavasis is a space where village, that is the agricultural production for own needs and the fellow village needs. So these three constitutes the space, and the speciality of this Banavasis. Banavasis means the forest habitants. Why it is the special of the Banavasis is the knowledge centers. Knowledge centers because this part of the land, the Eastern civilizations, where the focal point of the knowledge is not man but the nature that creates the man and beyond. So if nature is the starting point of this knowledge, and this knowledge space is the Aranya or Banavasis, and it has ample kind of literary evidence, that is Vedas, Jnana, Kandas, or knowledge parts is the Brahmanas, and Brahmanas comes of two segments, Aranyaks and Upanishads. And even Ramana is regarded as the incarnation of the Vedas, and there are 7 parts, 7 Kandas, and one of the prominent part is Aranyaks. So that's the literary evidence of it, and also evidently you you can find lot of the rishis and gurukuls. They are all in the forest. Why is it? Is it a serene space for kind of conceiving the knowledge? But at the same time also that concept is possible because the person who pursues the knowledge, he has a direct experience of the forest because of nature. And the third, that knowledge space is not in a very peaceful pursuit. It is a battling pursuit because many times knowledge fights or knowledge encounters the powers like bureaucrats and the academic professors in the university or for current academic higher security institutions of the present days, and that also happened to in ancient time. So ancient time it was not only peaceful pursuit of knowledge, but knowledge is the fearful protest and resistance and also justification of your knowledge. So this is a very, very powerful sentence of Barnabas. So if that is my Barnabas' ideal, then how come this Barnabas has been derooted in the whole canvas of the modernist? Friends, when I say the modernist, that is different from modern and modernity. Modernity, for my understanding, it defines creativity and criticality. And human being is from very beginning that creative and also critical, that is why they are modern. And that is why the discourse of modernity is traced to English Renaissance. What is that? Resurrection of ancient critical thinking, that ancient people are critical and they're creative, but what made them to away from this criticality? Because of the very critical, very important historical process of feudalization. And that feudalization consists of one is the Semitic thinking of control of the nature, and that also prepared by the loss of memory or amnesia, that means Basaparanta. And that has been documented in Bhagavad Gita also. Many times memories gets lost and some internal process is there and then reincarnate is knowledge. Because memory is just canvas, soft canvas of this knowledge. So this amnesia is fell down. So then that is the reason why this feudal process had disappeared knowledge from the global space including Greece and India, or from ancient India and Bharat. And then again that has been written by the English Renaissance. But English space is not the only place for invention, scientific invention I use. You have the equal space for scientific inventions in this part of the world. So it's a science, and that science is what? There's an interrelationship between nature and consciousness. And that's the reason why Ramana's contestations between Vishwamitra and Ravana. Ravana, that lines for nature and only nature is dominating of the consciousness, whereas Vishwamitra's process is experiment toward nature and consciousness interface. That is why this is called Vidya and Avidya. Vidya means knowledge, which is liberals, and Avidya is the controlling knowledge who mistake is Vidya, and that's the illusion, that is Avidya. And that contestation is not only in the English Renaissance time, that is also here in ancient times. And that has been, that knowledge rememorations has happened many times. That's called the cycle of the memories. But what happens after this Renaissance? The Renaissance, what happens? Because it's a semi-digression process of Renaissance, and that Renaissance, you have got a technological advantage of three advancement of technology. One, technology of navigations, technology of firepowers, and technology of print. So what happens to the technology of print? The technology of print, what does? The perception knowledge of sounds, knowledge of taste, everything kind of subsided, and knowledge of visibility became very important because you have something to demonstrate. That's the meaning language. This is the ideas because it is being printed. So print technology. That is why, and that print has become a vehicle for the missionary and colonizers. As a result, all the coexisting language with the oral traditions or any knowledge traditions, or for that matter, any Shrutis, they become insignificant. What becomes significant is the dominant printed knowledge, what has been printed, that Indians are sledgehammers, Africans are nativists, Africans are subhumans. And who wrote it? Hegel wrote it. Whoever wrote it. And then what is the account? The accounts are the Christian missionaries, Christian canonical accounts. And so it's a what do you say? It's a very kind of deep fusion of technology and acquisitive missionary evangelist projects. As a result, what you have this is called modernist discourse, and that modernist discourse has denuded this Barnabas in India. And why has it been denuded? Because this colonization and Christianization were vehemently, furiously resisted by people from grounds and from Aramaic spaces, and this sound like a figure. They resisted. And the resistance was so fierce that in most part of the Aramaic parts of the Orient, British were changed and killed. So that is why, and this kind of forest resistance was so rampant that English had to define after 1507 by notifying the Criminal Tribal Act, Forest Act, and also so many legal constructions. And then you criminalize, demonize the most famous fires. You notify no more tribes, their criminality. Not only that, you also construct the science knowledge. What is that? Archaeological sciences like Aryan versus non-Aryans, or linguistic science of three groups, of what you say Indo, kind of European, then kind of Austroasian science of people, and three broad frames system them. And at the same time, so you have created all that are seculars, and these and most specifically the Adivasis, they are away from scientific facilities, and their criminality, their human being, and then you regarded it and created census. What is that? Hindu, Muslim, Christians, and within Hindus also tribals and non-tribals. And then before that, you create the forest dwellers as nativists, that's census, nativists, then indigenous, then tribal and Adivasi. And tribal is a very interesting question, my friends. When you are in nature, labor or slavery, what is this? The British India and British Africa. So for laying down this colonial infrastructure, you brought these Indian laborers, captive laborers, and likewise you also took the idea of tribe from the Africa, you characterize this forest dwellers and tribals. So what a kind of colonial trickery of exchange. You exchange the labor from here to there, and their ideas of people's clans and people's kind of genealogy to India. So that's a pure colonial construction, and that is how it's reconstructed. And that reconstruction, because it is a peaceful resistance, like as blood as African war was. So that is the very few and a very less armed and so majority of resistance, and that could not be tackled through firepower technology, not in the print technology. So what you do, you legally do it through them, and that's the reloading process. So what is this Odisha experience speaking about? The Odisha experience not only speaks about reloading, what also reloading. If reloading is brutal, reloading also equally generative. It's peaceful resistance. You have got this Odisha's experience speaks of both war and warship. The anti-colonial war was most brilliant. Prior to 1857 after the mentioned, and that war was across Odisha's urban and village and forest spaces. So it's a combined and it's a very united resistance. And that resistance was so brutal that Baragada's single bodies, n number of British soldiers were cut down away from the hills and were put down to the hills, and they just hang like kilometers upon kilometers, and it was not acceptable to the British. So that's the kind of useful, kind of demonstration of resistance. Oh, that's the resistance, and also the war. And that war is not only the anti-colonial resistance; it is also internal resistance. You have the Gallipoli resistance. Gallipoli is the conformity of the Persuram. What is that? As I mentioned, the Persuram Ashrams. It was a knowledge and powers contestation between Persuram and Jagat of the one hand and Sahasrara of the other. If knowledge dominates over power, or power guides the knowledge. And that's the Gallipoli. or for that matter, you're ending all the distance and starting from n number of people from Lakman Naik to Colombo. Then you have got Madesin from H, or for that matter, Hanis, kind of Rendomadi, and n number of not only Banavasi fighters, Banavasi fighters as well. They are fierce, intelligent fighters, very few names like Ramai Bisoris of Paratimuni, and then kind of Parvati Giri from Pargod. So they have been for spaces, not only Banavasi fighters, but Banavasi fighters. So this is like fights, but that is not only war, but the Banavasi expression is in worship as well. That what we have been saying, say Rajaswara, that means to perceive the whole modern art is like begetting models. So that is why very biological process that is called Raja Parvas. So you celebrate it. You the modern art and mother you celebrate on equal, the respect and the biological sense. And then also worship of the Jagannath and worship of the Lingaraj. Worshippers are both from Aranyas and Nagarvasis. So that is the war and worships rerouting of Banavasis against this Adivasi tribal kind of enemies or such. So this is the rerouting to war and also worship, that is Shastra and Shastra. Shastra is for Shastra and Shastra is for Shastra. Thank you.
Anybody has any question?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Very interestingly and sir, illustrated in detail that the Banavas. Okay. So my question is, what is your objective of study, number one? And the second point, that is, if the tribal people are residing and living in the forest areas, and what is the other knowledge? How the tribal people are not acquiring the knowledge? The knowledge is the most important part. First, we are talking about the knowledge, how to enhance the knowledge. Banavasi, concept Banavasi, and we are talking about how to enhance, how to develop the knowledge in the first place. I like that. And what in the technological points of view, we are talking about information, all the other things and perspectives are also used in detail. My question is, why do the Adivasis of tribal area, tribal people do not have the knowledge? Yeah. Those in the first area is and also knowledge. What is possible that to tribal knowledge
I have already explained my own, kind of three questions, and then when I responded to them, perhaps the two fundamental issues that you have raised that I can respond. One, why now there is a perceived value of knowledge. First, let's understand what is the knowledge. Knowledge is about the material advancement of kind of skyrocketing habits, or is a knowledge is a very peaceful habit and it's all organic habits. So first, let me be clear what is knowledge for me. Knowledge is to know and know for what, know myself and the rest of the place. So in that way, I find these people are very knowledgeable. I think my friend will tell me he had an opportunity to talk to Myong's, person who is spearheading this movement and how they're knowledgeable about earth, themselves and the others. So the idea of the knowledge space in RNF is a perceived, it is not a real. And the second is, if you want then there's how you reverse if you find that the knowledge back in space. That means there's no development, no advancement and everything. I think this modernist discourse is a colonial subjugation of Jal, Jameen and Jungle. That means this whole idea of rule of law is one. It is to capture and create a captive space, and one of the most important captive space are the forest places, because they are the abundant spaces, lot of natural resources, and lot of kind of places that can utilize for industrializations or industrial development. So if for you for us industrial development is a knowledge, then certainly they are not knowledgeable. But if you say it's a ecological knowledge, then they are much more knowledgeable and much more, greater pedestal of consciousness than what I am. Thank you.
Yeah.
There is something called indigenous knowledge systems, which this thing is being emphasized in the present world. Why not you look at the folk songs, folk tales of the tribals and see what kind of knowledge is contained there? We have never done that. I'll give you a simple example. I was born and brought up in a village. Jestri Kadari Asade Kiya Bota Lopato Huygot. This is a folk song. I learned from my mother, when I had 3 mothers. My mother, my dad, eldest brother, better. Now see, what kind of knowledge don't you have? Don't you get a lot of knowledge in it? In Jestra, you plant the Kadari saplings and Asada you plant the Kiya saplings and you go there, plant them properly and they will stand. So there are a number of things like that. We have ignored all these things. It's time we started looking at what kind of knowledge is there in the tribal folks and folk tales, what kind of knowledge is found in Sagara Mahabharata, what kind of knowledge is there in Dandi Ramayana, all these things we should start doing that. Then only it's indigenous knowledge, otherwise Yatha Purvam Tatha.
Thank you. So now we have the last speaker, Dr. Anshuman Behra, Associate Professor, Conflict Resolution Program, Indian Institute of Science, Campus, Bangalore.
Good evening everyone and namaskar. And it's a bit intimidating because you have the speakers, kind of speakers who spoke before you. This is also an advantage because they've spoken enough, I don't have to speak much. Okay, to that extent I feel I'm lucky, and this is also a disadvantage because you feel that you are not going to speak anything. Okay, the audience will be bored. But I'll try to compensate. I'll just step away from all these the cultural aspects. I'll take you more kind of behavioral and day-to-day affairs of the Banavasis. Okay. So the tentative title around which I'll be speaking or I'll be discussing my ideas. This is something that I've been working. Okay. And thereby I'll also touch upon a very interesting thing that the lady from Benin University, right, mentioned about the little traditions and the big traditions, right? And then the organic social formation that Professor Ashwini sir actually mentioned. Okay. Around that, I call it the Banavasis of Orissa in conflict and post-conflict scenario. Conflict here, I am not getting into our understanding of conflict, which is inevitable, okay, inevitable, where conflict is seen through an everyday kind of an inevitability, okay, where it is a conscious chaos and there is a lot of associative values actually attached to it. When I'm talking about the conflict, I'm actually dealing with the conflict that the Western society or the Western scholarship necessarily thinks, which is built upon on the disassociative aspects of conflict, where the enemy or the competition is completely, the competitor is completely kind of removed or harmed or injured, right? So I built this talk around 2 important propositions. One is the invasion of external ideas and traditions. I just substitute the ideas with tradition because I just took a cue from you. The invasion of external traditions on the Banavasis have necessarily ruptured the social fabric, especially in Orissa. This is also true in states like Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, but since it is on Orissa, I will just speak on Orissa, that this have necessarily ruptured the social fabric. And this is where when I am saying external traditions, I am not necessarily talking about the small, little and the greater traditions. Okay, I am talking about the traditions that are alien to these societies. Okay, these are the 2 traditions I will be talking about. One is the left-wing extremism that the Maoist insurgents that we actually saw for 10-15 years in these areas, maybe more than 2 decades. And the second alien idea that came to this society was the Christianity, right? The missionaries coming there. And that is where, from a conflict that was based on associative values, okay, creating an everyday routine, the negotiation for the societies to actually flourish, and strike out a kind of negotiation where the groups, competing groups, if not conflicting groups, actually they live together. Here is a kind of idea, or the ideas, very alien ideas, neither small nor big. Okay, they came and they necessarily divided the society, which can never be together ever. Okay, I'll give you the example. The second proposition is derived from the first one, that is the indifference of the state. The indifference of the state, when I'm talking of the state, the governments, the successive governments, I'm not taking any side. The successive governments' indifference and the social indifference, people sitting here and outside, okay, that also sustains this conflict for a longer time. To that extent, I'm actually going to discuss how the things in the conflict scenario and the post-conflict scenario actually continues to affect the Banavasis. When I'm talking about the Banavasis, I am necessarily not creating a division between the civil caste and the civil tribe. I request all of you to visit the state, the tribal museum in Cuttack, right? Janadati Sangrahalaya, we call it. There you go, it's a very important message written out. Okay, it's called the Panditam Ka Bono Bhagwan. Okay, you say that when the intellectuals actually visit the forest areas. Right? And that is where they write how divisions among the Banavasis were created. Very beautifully, I don't have time to actually touch upon that. Basically saying the so-called modern, the so-called well-developed kind of thing, when they went into the forest dwelling communities, how necessarily they actually created the society. Right? So the indifference here is basically not thinking that they exist. And that actually sustains the conflict among the marginalized communities. Okay? And that creates a conflict. Earlier, which was a conflict-based negotiation for the social, everyday social, is now a conflict actually based on dissociation, which actually displaced certain communities from their activity. Right? Let's come to the, very quickly on the examples. These are the theoretical background that I wanted to give. The example is we had a Maoist insurgency in these areas. Okay, the Banavasi majority areas of Orissa, basically Koraput, Malkangiri, Raigada, Navarampur, Gajapati, Palahandi, these are the states. Okay, and these are also the resource states. Resource not in terms of the, if I take a clue from Max Weber, not in terms of the material one, but the socially, knowledge-wise, what Sandeepan Bhai actually discussed, right? And the Maoists came, and all of a sudden it became very convenient for the state, which was already the modern state, okay, which was already indifferent or rather exploitative of these communities. It became a wonderful tool for the modern state to become even more indifferent and even more exploitative, right? And that is where the demands that are necessarily social in nature were actually converted or placed or put together, clubbed as security. As very security kind of thing. Anything that the tribals actually demanded, the Niyamgiri thing Sandeepan Bhai actually mentioned. This is worth mentioning, Sriman Kumutimaji. Okay, arguably one of the best kind of philosophers of this state. Okay, not much read, not much discussed in the so-called kind of organized educational systems. And his dialogue with the chief of Vedanta group, Anil Agarwal, is something that those who are very interested, I can actually speak to outside. And that is where you will see that, what I was saying, okay, I am missing the point. The Maoist kind of thing, when they came, they converted the social, the demands of the social to secular. The Niyamgiri thing, for a long, okay, we discussed that it was the Maoists who backed the movement which is necessarily anti-development. This was a dominant narrative that was actually sold, this was consumed, this was accepted. But I can with authority I can tell you, the Maoists had no role there. In fact, the Maoists came, they wanted to lead the movement. The leaders like, Kumutimaji, Lagasikata, they asked them to leave. They asked them to leave, said, this is our battle, we can fight it out. Not a single weapon was used. Not a single weapon was used. Okay, in the history of India's independence, the Supreme Court's bench actually came to the hills of Niyamgiri, where there was a Jana Adala, or a Gram Sabha, if I can say so, and 100 odd villages said, please don't dilute the thing. It is about a holistic knowledge system that if Niyamgiri is destroyed, okay, 8 to 9 meter of water resources that each bauxite mining, actually Bibu Bhai is here, he can correct me if I am wrong, like each bauxite mining has a reservoir of 8 meter of water resources. You are going to destroy it, then only you will get the water, like the bauxite. You will destroy hundreds of species there. Right? So that now the state government, the central government, they are actually bragging that the Maoists have gone. And this is seen as a success story. Another 2 minutes and finish. Okay. Success story of the government, central and the state. But do you know that in a post-conflict kind of society, right? And what was the another kind of conflict we saw? The Christian missionaries coming there. The infamous kind of thing in Kandhamar, right? Where the Christians and the tribals actually fought. If you take Christians and the tribals, if you take them out, the Vanavasi take them out, it was necessarily a fight between Panas and Kandhas. Earlier, what was the arrangement? Not that there was absolutely no conflict. The conflict led to a negotiation. What was the negotiation? Kandharaja Panamantri. The Kandhas are kings, the Panas are ministers, the minds of the Panas they are money, and the strength of the Kandhas, the society is very even stronger. The same thing was in Narayanpatna, where the Dambas and the Kandhas fought. Okay, that is where the state and the Maoists took sides. Where the Kandhas were seen as the supporters of the Maoists, and the Dambas were seen as the supporters of the state, and 3,000 families were displaced. They are living in deplorable situation in the headquarters of Korapur. Right, now the Maoist wing is gone, the state is bragging its success. Now you see what these two external alien traditions have done to the social fabrics of Odisha. Right, now for years to come, we have been trying in Kandhamar, in Korapur, for years to come in Narayanpatna areas, the Dambas and Kandhas cannot live together. This is what these alien traditions can do. The same thing goes to the Kandhamar area where the Panas and Kandhas cannot actually live. Right? The socio-cultural identity has been destroyed. Earlier, okay, as I told you, the Vanavasis are not a kind of a monolithic community, but they are not divided the way the modern construction actually sees. Right? And the identity question Madam asks, okay, my way of actually, with the permission they can say, how do I identify myself? Okay? So I have a very small conceptual way of actually looking at it. I identify something as myself. The others identify me as the same, and there is a discourse around that identity. That makes my identity. Accordingly, I have multiple identities. Right? Now the Kandhas, they are all Vanavasi, that is an umbrella identity. Within that, you see the Parajas, you go and talk to the Parajas and Jodias, they will talk ill about it themselves, but they never engage in violence. Right? Similarly, before the Christians and the Maoists actually came, they all identified themselves as their group. I am a Kandha, I am a Paraja, I am a Jodia. Right? Once the Maoists came, all of them are comrades. Juhar word vanished from their vocabulary. They, greet with themselves with the Juhar. Now they are calling Lam Salam. Right? How an alien tradition actually destroys that. And how long it will take to come back to the Johar? I am not saying that the Johar is something very important. Okay, but then it is important to the ground that there was a consensus around it. Right? And that actually caused a negotiation between the kind of groups, social groups, those who live with inevitable conflicts. The second, more materialistic kind of resources. The jungles have been given on contracts, the forest has been given on contracts, the mining has been given on contracts. Right? Why do they go? Right? For them to compete. Okay, I will not take any educational institute's name. Mere kind of this kind of formal education doesn't necessarily empower them. Doesn't necessarily put them in a condition where they can actually compete. This is never a level playing kind of field for them. Why do they go? They will come, then end up, at least they are free in their areas. They used to go hunting, gathering, whatever the way you deeming their work. There was a freedom, the component of freedom was very much there. This is missing. They will come, they will do menial job. Even in the whole society, you go to Korapur, they are called as Deshiya. Some better worker came and clubbed them together and said that yes, here. What is the definition? Those who look and smell like a nasty way of looking from the modern, so-called modern scholars, right? Right. The last point I end with. In the name of revolution, the Maoists reclaim their land, okay, the land from different people. Even the states control land in Narayanpatna and Bandhugaon. Bandhugaon is a place, those who do not know from outside Odisha, this produces the best quality lemongrass, right? The Maoists actually reclaim some 6,000 acres of land. Okay, earlier the Banavasis used to work on the land, at least they used to get the wages. When the Maoists took it, there was absolutely nothing. In the larger cause of revolution, everything was taken by the Maoists. Okay, what happens to that land? The third thing is about the displacement. How many of you know about the Cuttack? Okay, none of you. Okay, the Cuttack is a community that is the Odisha-Chhattisgarh border. Those who have actually gone because of the Maoist violence, they are living in the forest areas of Telangana. So what I have written in my paper is that citizenship has been territorialized. Even a modern state can be so cruel, okay, only to the marginalized communities, right? So the alien ideas and the post-colonial, post-conflict kind of scenario, okay, these are some of the important issues that I have been working. I just wanted to actually bring it to your notice so that there can be little more discussion around it. Thanks for the opportunity and thanks to Vikram for organizing this.
Any question? Yes, the question.
I think very nice talk, and I like this, the way you define the conflict era and the post-conflict era. I mean, it may not be question, but what I perceive is that when you talk about conflict, at that time probably it is pivoted more towards the security. It was more towards the security, right? Maybe I'm not phrasing it right because I'm not from the, my background is different. So my understanding is that you are saying post-conflict is when the Maoist or whatever, the security was the dividing line sort of to say. In a way, that okay, now secure is fine. That is the way to say. But what I feel is that it's not post-conflict. I think we have entered into new conflict area, where it is deeper than actually the security one. Because here we have disturbed the whole social fabric. So now there is a crisis of even identity within these groups, and they don't even realize they are still in the conflict. I feel that way. So your comment on that.
It will be not entirely correct to say that they don't realize they are already in conflict. They do realize. They do articulate the kind of social position very much better, far better than we do. That is the first thing. Second, the post-conflict was only reference to the kind of, rampant conversion that was going on in Kandhamar. Okay, that is a check. There is a check on that. There is no doubt about it. And the Maoists, the presence of the Maoists threatening the very existence of the tribes. Okay, other day I just corrected a paper from somebody from New York talking about Cuttack has seen a lot of migration. Okay, second thing is I think the feminization of agriculture. From where they got this kind of ideas, I do not know. I said the tribal women always contributed to the family economy because there was no concept of accumulation of wealth. Right? The second thing, the absence of male in these areas not because of the so-called rural agricultural distress. It's because of the presence of the Maoist and the police. That are things, right? So the post-conflict here is on that ground. Okay, but what is worrisome is you are very much right on one thing. I cannot agree more with you that this conflict is kind of they are into more. The nature of conflict is something different. The so-called post-Maoism or post kind of rampant conversion that was religious conversion that was going on. But there is a new kind of conflict. The conflict is now even if we went to the Chief Minister of the former Chief Minister of Telangana, we requested him that at least have a counting of how many Cuttack are there in your forest. Counted around 455, but that was not scientific. Right? Now, even if the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh is also not ready to take them, can you think of 55,000 people of their own living without the state support? Living without that is a different kind of, and their land and all those things have been taken by the other communities. will they give it back? Okay, that is where I said the indifference of the state, and more than the indifference of the state is the indifference of the society. Right? Thank you. Next one, please.
Yeah. This my solution to veto, something I beg to differ. Indian tradition is a loaded term. The basically intervention, as you say, is a intervention of the external agency. Say the communist agency. It's a tradition, it's a larger, it's a large salam. It's a symbolic thing. It symbolizes unity of the operation. And so obviously the way you say large salam, so we should try to drop the unconventional way of reading. So what a tradition is an intervention agency and taking advantage of the situation existing. And the situation basically could be defined in terms of invulnerability. One second, you just read out, the writer is really mentioned. You say post-conflict is something very conflict original power. And post-conflict basically involves the process of conflict transformation. Conflict transformation journey refers to the positive interdependence of parties. Conflict basically is defined in terms of negative interdependence. So parties, they are negatively inclined, and that's positive thing, it takes time. And post-conflict is a process where the conflict is almost over. Conflict basically refers to all. So you can say something else. How do you define it? One that we conflict over, second conflict formation process of formation. Third thing is to say that what state is cruel. That's a basically identical description by the radical party. State is the operation. You can just kind of think of a substitute. Is indifferent, negligent, particularly reference to a state in India which happens to live in a democracy, not an authoritarian state. And third is here, when you talk about authoritarian state, talk about the space which exists within state and society, which is called civil society. So you can say we need a more vibrant civil society, more inclusive and active civil society to take up decisions to identity. Because the dependent state leadership and the nature and vibration of civil society that exists in the North West. Sure.
These are very, very important questions. Okay, I would very respectfully say that I have a different opinion, if not a disagreement. Okay, what is that? Why I say it is a post-conflict? Okay, look, the people I am saying those have been at the receiving end. Okay, they were never party to the conflict. Okay, the conflict between the state and the Maoists has come to end. To that extent, it is post-conflict. Okay, contrary to belief. Okay, there is absolutely no fact, very little fact rather. Contrary to believe that the tribals were with the Maoists is a myth. You get more than 3 to 4% tribals were part of the Maoists or they joined the Maoists, it will be literally difficult for the state to intervene there. Okay, that is because it's my, your sort kind of interaction with the tribals. To that extent, the parties of the conflict were necessarily the state and the Maoists. Okay, not the Banavasis. The Banavasis were actually in between and they were never party to the conflict. The second is why you say traditions, not the interventions here. The traditions here, because if I follow this thing, intervention of Maoism or the presence of the Maoism. Okay, let me replace the word, read the presence. The over-dominant presence of the Maoism. Okay, and this is a phrase I will stick to. Okay, this literally changed the traditions of these people. When was the last time you heard that in the tribal areas biryani will be cooked in the night? When was the last time you heard that the tribals will come and take a plate and accordingly they will put and read out something forcibly? Okay, some pages of communism actually to recite before eating food. When was the last time you actually heard that in the name of community farming in Bandhugama, okay, the things will be passed go to the Sangha, that is Chasi Mulya Adivasi Sangha, the greater cause of revolution. Whatever little left according to the need of a particular household, it will be distributed. This was never part of the thing in the tribal. Even where communitarian farming was very much there, exchange of labor was very much there. You know, the accumulation of food was never there. So to that extent, the traditions were affected by the Christianity.
Agency or the internal tradition?
Okay,
Okay, just we will discuss later. Last comment.
Well, it is about the roots. You know that we have Chaturvarnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. These Adivasis were outside the Varnas. But we have references in the Ramayana that somebody giving berries to Rama. You come to Mahabharata, Bhima had a wife, Hidimbi or whatever it is, and also if you look at all the Puranas, you will find something. So it is very fascinating and it has not been worked out how this integration took place, happened over a period of time. And it's a very fascinating thing. And it has never been, if you look at it, probably, we very strongly believe Ravana was an Adivasi, but an educated Adivasi because he was outside the system. He was not living in the regular kind of system. And probably it's time we start looking at the whole thing afresh. When you say that Chaturvarna, was it really Chaturvarna or this kind of thing was there? What? And why you have all these issues, whatever was discussed by Hanuman here, only in these areas? Why do you not have these things in Uttar Pradesh, Punjab or Haryana? There must be a reason. So maybe this was the area where all these things were happening. I don't know. That has to be looked into very carefully. This has bothered me. I was thinking about it. I have no solution. I thought I will express whatever.
I'm afraid that we are already reached the time. Just to summarize, we had a great session starting with Professor Panchanan Mohanty and then Professor Ashwini Mahapatra, Sandeepani Das and Professor Ansuman Behra. Just a couple of comments I would like to make. First, in relation to Professor Panchanan Mohanty, he gave very wonderful examples of how instead of saying Adivasi, he said Bhasi. Bhasi is the language. How that has influenced the Indian language. But let me also tell you, as an intellectual or as per an understanding, that there are two kinds of revolution that takes place within any society, any civilization. One is spatio-temporal evolution, which you can track either through historically or different ways, but there are also evolution that is beyond space and time, which also must be taken into account. And these are very difficult cases. So number one. Number two, I would like to say that while we were speaking about the topic here is tribal or Banavasi or Jati. What we are, the focus of this conference or the reclaiming the roots. I would like to appeal all people here because I was born and brought up within the tribes. One thing that has appealed to me and the thing that we have to learn from them is systematic. I think this is something that we have to take into account, and because this, you talked about mining, you talked about mining, and that Agarwal, right? And displacing them, we have really done a great discovery to them. They were really custodian of our natural resources. They knew how to minimally consume and still sustain the things. So with that, I thank everybody for all your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, chairpersons and speakers. With this, we came to the end. with a little bit of caveat that Homo sapiens in the process of colonizations of the world that led to extinctions of almost 50,000 species. And about the so-called differentiated space, Sandipali's spoke very passionately, but Sandipali's ashrama was in Ujjaini, which was the Mahanagara, and there are differentiated space such as Rama, Nagara, Mahanagara, Aranya and Varna. These are all cultural space, they are not geographical space actually. And they are differentiated space. But my job is to thank you, all of you, and but the kind of interaction that happened between Varna, Aranya and Brahma or Nagara leads to this spatial map. And it's out of this process that languages develop. Cultural transaction, everybody knows that. There is no cerebral retroflections in the Indo-European group of languages, but we have in Sanskrit all around the world. We have many, therefore, Bengalis, Ambodis. Beyond that, we are thankful to all of you, especially Panchaman sir, Ashwini sir, who are our teachers, and others are the two young speakers are my also juniors. Sir, I request the chairperson to instead as speakers with Uttariya and others. Please. We'll start with Ashwini sir.
Yeah, we will start with Professor Panchanan.
I thought his name starts with A, so
I can't find it.
exactly.
Sandipani, can you come? Very passionate speaker.
Very
I'm sorry, I could not because of this and dear Sansuman Bodala.
I request Professor Panchanan to felicitate our chairperson.
I have already
No, chairperson
With
should
your-
have any interference within course now. So there is something called Pratidanam. So whatever he has,
Yes, so-
Danam he has done, there will be a Pratidanam now. So it is for the chairperson.
This is also the frontal facade of your institution.
I'm sure that it looks like I'm giving it to you, not he is giving it to you.
Thank you so much. With this, we come to the closure of this session.
This is the college where I studied. This is irony. I left this place in 1984. 83 I studied. 84 also I was doing BSc. 1 year I have done BSc here. I left 84 and coming back in 2024. 40 years.